Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm back with another video, and it's doing my second video today. This is a new thing for me, but this I felt was urgent. It's been on the, you could say, the back burner. It's hardly back burner, but I feel like I really need to get around to it. So it's July 17th and 2025, and I just there's a couple of items that crossed my desk that I wanted to bring to your attention. The first is that I am on the mailing list for the UNRWA, which is the United Nations. I think it's like the Relief Works Agency. I'm not sure of exactly what the words are, but these are people whose job is to bring relief to the refugee relief to the people of Palestine, and particularly to the people of Gaza. And I got an email from them recently. I get them fairly regularly, asking for money. And the problem is that all the news reports that I get are that that their agency has simply been barred from going into Gaza. And I don't have lots of money to throw around, and I'm concerned about where my money's going. If I'm just going to support them, granted, they have to have jobs and they got families to feed and everything, but if they're not actually able to deliver on their stated goal is, then what am I doing? So I wrote a letter to them and I said, please explain this situation. And they wrote back, fortunately, and said, yes, we are involved in bringing aid to Gaza. So I thought, well, that's good. But then I thought, well, I should really do some research and see what they actually have to say on their website. So I went to their website, and I read their most recent report from June. And I have to say that it was really terrible. It was, it is a catastrophe unfolding right before our very eyes. And I think, I don't know what it is about me. Maybe it's, is it just me, or I don't know, but because I've studied World War II, and I came from a Jewish background, so I know roughly what happened. I have a fairly good idea. Let's put it this way: my grandmother told me that her family was wiped out, so I don't need news reports or academic studies. My grandmother has pictures. I say, who are those people? And she says, they're dead. Hitler killed them. So that's good enough for me. But as I've studied in more recent years, especially as this crisis with Russia has become more and more intense, we thought that it was ending, with the Cold War. But as Sergei Lavrov, who's the Minister of Defense, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, pointed out, and Vladimir Putin also pointed out, he said Russia thought that the problem that the West had with the Soviet Union and with Russia was purely ideological. And so they went on that basis, and over time they began to realize that that's not what was happening. What was actually happening was an innate need to destroy Russia. And what are the parallel here is that it seems like there's an Israeli innate need to destroy Palestine. So in the Soviet Union during World War II, the city that was then known as Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg, was blockaded, very similar to what happened with Gaza. And it was also bombed significantly. So there was almost no food or medicine or anything going in and out for long periods of time. At one point during the winter, people are literally freezing and starving to death. But there was a lake that was still accessible, that wasn't blockaded by the Germans, and they actually built a railway on the ice, on the river, on the lake ice, and were sending supplies in by train and also sending supplies in by truck on the ice. And of course this had limited effectiveness because as spring came and the ice started to melt, the ice, trucks and trains would just fall through the ice. So that lasted for well over 2 years, from like September 1941 until 1943. So and 1 million people died there, and the city of Leningrad was roughly the same size, it's roughly the same population, and as Gaza. So I see parallels there. I also see parallels with what happened in India, where the British got into their heads, as Winston Churchill said. He said, those Indians, they multiply by rabbits, there's too many of them. And so he decided to cut off supplies to the area of India called Bengal. And 2 to 3 million Bengalese people died of starvation. So we can talk about, what the Germans did, but the British were equally guilty in many ways, and over a longer period of time, in fact, over decades in India and other countries. But in any case, here back to Gaza, this is the genocide that is going on now. You'd think that after World War II, after the horrors of World War II, that humanity would have learned its lesson and learned to get along with each other. But for some reason, the Zionists who came to Palestine before and after World War II seem to have harbored, not all of them, because I know Israelis and that don't feel that way, but I know a large number of them do, just have this inherent visceral hatred, a genocidal hatred for Palestine. So that is the source of the problem, and I ask, well, why is that? Is it simply that the hatred that they experienced has been so internalized in them that they decide that the only way to cope with their existential angst is to visit that form of suffering on other human beings, whom they don't recognize any more than the Germans recognized Jews as human beings? Is that what's going on? I don't know, but it's just a really terrible situation, and it's compounded by the fact that actually, just as in World War II, there was basically no help provided to the people of Leningrad or the people of Bengal by the Allies, and now there's been nominal, if very, very little aid provided to Gaza. In the past, when the United States has accused a country of weapons of mass destruction or need to invade based on the responsibility to protect this beleaguered population, often based on lies, the United States they unilaterally even intervened, going against UN mandates that if you're going to invade a country, you need to have approval of the United Nations Security Council, and the United States just didn't do that. So a question that arises for me is, what is going to stop this Israeli genocide? It's just so completely outrageous. Everybody watches what's happening, and hardly anything is done about it. There's been some airdrops, and there's negotiations, and some trucks come in, but it's been very, very spotty. So recently, it turns out, Jimmy Dore just reported on this, I'll provide the link, that a group of 20 countries, China and Bolivia and a number of other countries, these are mostly smaller countries. Heaven forbid that England or the United States would involve themselves in preventing starving people from dying, or heaven forbid, no longer supplying the bombs or the intelligence to slaughter these people. No, they're not going to do that. But you have about 20 countries, and they're saying that what they're going to do is they're going to prevent ships carrying lethal supplies to Israel. So that's a good thing, but it's really just scratching the surface, because we have a huge human rights problem in Palestine. It's been going on for 80 years. It's like a cancer that hasn't been treated, and the Palestinians, are on their deathbed, and the international community has done virtually nothing about it. It's just really, it's unconscionable, it's outrageous, and I don't know what else to say about it, but I felt like I really needed to, make note of this, because I often talk about other topics, but this is, I'll say this, the war in Ukraine has resulted in actually more deaths, but that's a war of kind of like of choice. In other words, it's more complicated. The Ukrainian people were commandeered by a coup fomented by the United States. They've been propagandized for decades. Many of them hate Russia. Not all. Many of them don't feel that way at all. But they've been, basically, their consciousness has been weaponized by decades of propaganda, and that has fueled this war. And even when Ukraine had wanted to negotiate an end to the war, the United States and Great Britain said, "Don't you dare do that." Lindsey Graham says, we are going to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. I mean, the arrogance and cynicism of that kind of statement is really unbelievable. But that's what they're dealing with there. And of course, but Ukraine is not exactly the same thing. However, many more people, apparently more people have died in Ukraine, but it's a kind of different situation. In the case of Palestine, these people are basically, they are in a concentration camp. They've been blocked for years, and there's almost no way to get out of there. There's very little food and medicine or any of the necessities of life coming in, and Israel is very happy about it. You have soldiers that are rejoicing over it. These people are they've lost their minds. So I felt like I really need to say something about that, because if things continue to go the way things are, Palestine will turn into another Leningrad, where 1 million or more people die of starvation and exposure to the elements and to bombing. So that's the nature of the situation. So thank you for listening, and it's not a pleasant topic, but we really need to, raise our consciousness about this. Somehow, the human race, we need to go beyond this kind of brutality and sadism that seems to be infecting human consciousness from time to time. And I don't know what to do about it except to do my little videos and alert people, and hopefully we can build enough momentum to put an end to this. So thank you again for listening, and if you'd like to contribute to my channel, you can do so. I'll post some links in the below this video. And thanks again for listening. I'll talk with you soon.